In this video, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is where an individual feels like they don't deserve their accomplishments or success. They feel like a fraud and worry that other people will find out that they're not as capable as they seem, even though there's no real reason for them to doubt themselves. It's like you're wearing a mask and at any moment, people are going to see right through it. But in reality, there's no real reason to doubt yourself. You have all the credentials that you need. This is something I struggled with for a long time, and even these videos that I'm making, I'm struggling with imposter syndrome, even though there's no real reason for me to actually feel this way. I went through what I went through, I learned what I learned, and I'm speaking on the things that I've learned because I actually went through it. One of the first songs that I actually made was over imposter syndrome because I was breaking down that mindset I had behind imposter syndrome. And with imposter syndrome, this can also be very prevalent within neurodivergence, especially the ADHD folks, because we have the ability to tap in and learn in so many different fields of study that we get hyper-focused on these subjects, and then we have this information overload, and then we feel like we're not even capable of speaking upon said subject, even though you were so hyper-focused and you spent so much time learning about said subject. But imposter syndrome is a sign that you're really anxious and you probably struggle with being a perfectionist. So you might have a fear of creating and putting yourself out there because you feel like the information that you have isn't good enough to share with the world. And that's kind of where perfection comes into play, because you feel like your content or whatever you're doing, whatever you're teaching, needs to be perfect for you to share it with other people. But let me tell you a little secret. Nothing's perfect. There's going to be somebody out there that's not going to resonate with whatever you're talking about. And that is something that you have to come into terms with. The biggest lesson to learn here is there's perfection and imperfection. You have to be okay with being imperfect. Because if you let imposter syndrome rule over your life, you're never going to put yourself out there. You're never going to go chase after your dreams. You're never going to be seen as the authority in whatever field that you're trying to set yourself into. It's like you have to have all your ducks in a row before you just put yourself out there. Instead of just putting yourself out there, just put yourself out there. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to know everything. And if you feel like you do know everything, that's probably your ego speaking to you. But I found the more that I learn stuff is the more I don't know anything, because I'm just learning even more. So you have to step back into that beginner mindset. And when you step back into that beginner mindset, that's when everything starts to open up for you. So if you want to overcome imposter syndrome, you have to show yourself some compassion. You have to do the inner work, ask yourself the hard questions. Why do I feel this way? What can I do to get around this? What are my thoughts around perfection on this subject? And then you start to realize that it's okay to be imperfect because there's perfection and imperfection. Then you start to get the ball rolling, stepping into that beginner mindset. And then after that, you just go one step at a time, and very big on one step at a time. Because if you're struggling with imposter syndrome, chances are you are struggling with anxiety. And with anxiety, it's a lot of worry about the future. Even though the future, you can't predict the future. You can try all you want, but you never know what's going to happen in the future. And so that's why one step at a time is important here. Because if you think about the future way too much, you're essentially building up this mountain that's so high, that's so big, that when you start to look at the mountain from the base of it, you're just like, holy fuck, how am I going to get up there? My phone keeps slipping. Hold on. And so when you do that, you start to feel paralyzed, and now you're at that point where you can't even take the next step because you're just so anxious. And when you're living in the future like that, you're not living in the present. And when you're not living in the present, you can't affect your future because you're not in the present moment. If you want to change your future, you have to live in the present moment. You have to be okay with that imperfection. And let's put this in a different perspective. If you're struggling with imposter syndrome over some subject that you have a lot of knowledge on, chances are you can teach a lot of that knowledge to somebody that is a few steps behind you and really help them out. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a master at whatever you're doing. You just have to be a couple steps ahead of the other person so you can bring them up into a higher perspective, a higher level, a higher way of life. So if you really want to help other people climb, you have to realize that you do have something that is worthy of sharing with the world. And so if you want to alleviate the anxiety that you're feeling and bring yourself in the present moment, you have to be mindful of what you're doing. The best ways to do this is like meditation, doing some journal, some breathwork exercises. I actually have a free breathwork exercise if you want to check that out, link in bio. But you really got to focus on bringing yourself into the present moment and just taking the next step. Taking the steps that you can do right now, and then just watch your journey unfold. Don't get paralyzed. Just take action. Show yourself some compassion. Step into that beginner mindset and know that you're worthy. There's going to be a lot of people that don't know what you do on your alone time, and they're just going to judge you for whatever you're speaking upon or doing. And at the end of the day, that's a projection of them because they feel like they're not capable or worthy enough, and they see something that you have and they're just jealous of it. So they start to project their own feelings onto you, and you just got to recognize that it's just a projection. You have to stand in your own power. And I'm not saying dealing with imposter syndrome is easy. It's only as easy as you make it. The more you do this over time, it does get easier. I promise you that. And thinking about it, a support system would really help you in this. So really surround yourself with people that are supportive of your journey. And also realize the people that are at the top, they're not going to make fun of you for whatever you're doing currently, because they know the journey. They've been through the journey. It's really only the people at the bottom, the people that are lower than you, that are going to try to bring you down. So do your best to not let that affect you. The only way through this is just going through it. There is no shortcuts. So it's very important to do the work on yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody can bring you out of this imposter syndrome besides yourself, because this is all on self. I can only make this video to help guide you and see what you're dealing with, but at the end of the day, you're the only one that can do the work. But if you're seeing this, just know I love you and I believe in you. And if you really want to start the process to this, leave in the comment section, imposter syndrome be gone. And really mean it, really feel it, because that'll help you start this journey and anchor in this process. But besides that, I hope you have a wonderful life. Take care.